The 30th of August, 1944. After I awake from a terrible sleep, the first thing my eyes behold is the leaden grey sky. Tormented by absurd dreams, I need considerable time to find my way back to reality. I look at my surroundings, my entire body shaking from the wet and cold. Mist and thin fog clouds lie over the prisoners, pressed tightly together. Here and there someone tries to warm himself through deep knee bends or running in place. The American guards stand on the ground and sit on the tanks wrapped in their warm brown coats with glimmering yellow-gold brass buttons, their automatic weapons ready. A gnawing hunger rages in my empty stomach. Sleep still holds my two companions in its compassionate hands, while my thoughts wander homewards. Now the field mail service, which previously invisibly connected the front to the homeland, has been torn in two. Weeks will pass before my family will be informed by way of Geneva of my fate. Many days and nights of uncertainty will wear on them as they wonder about me. An immense longing seizes me and brings me to my feet. With numbed legs, I wander along the edge of the assembly area to restore some feeling to my limbs, to organize my thoughts, and to set myself in order. Since 1940, I have seen countless soldiers of the opposing nations fall into German captivity. Their fate was certainly no less difficult than mine. I estimate that since the war began, over 1 million German soldiers have come under foreign custody in such places as Africa and Stalingrad. I cannot consider myself so important, especially not now, although a terrible hunger depresses me, and all of the meanness and humiliation that I have recently experienced threatens to drive me to the edge of doubt. A number of situations that I have fallen into during the course of the war seemed hopeless and brought me to a confrontation with death. But still, to this day, fate has been kind to me and has provided a way out in every situation. The time in prison will also pass, perhaps earlier than I think. It depends completely on me if and how I come through it. I recall the saying I learned at my confirmation, which has accompanied me throughout my entire life. My son, give me your heart, and let your eyes be pleased with my way. Good. We will see why I had to become a prisoner at this time. They will not allow us to starve, otherwise they would have executed us on the spot and saved the trouble of transporting and guarding us. A prisoner is ballast for the enemy, if not an immediate danger. We require guards and provisions. The first are missing at the front, and provisions are dependent upon the supply convoys. Therefore, we are not really as useless as I had previously thought. And then there are my two friends that, luckily, I became acquainted with while we were still free. Perhaps Providence has arranged it this way. During my wandering, I come unexpectedly upon a group of German staff officers sitting on the edge of the camp area. Even a general staff officer with a red stripe on his trousers is among them. Amazed, I remain standing, looking at the gentlemen who still wear their medals. It is a mystery to me how these high-ranking officers, who must have known about the situation at the front, could have been captured. Or did they come to the Americans out of free choice? In the hospital I heard rumours about such officers. "I think he is crazy," I hear an older major say to the others. Slowly I turn around and look at one of the tanks, while my ears intensely take in the officer's conversation. He did not listen to Rommel or Rundstedt. Instead, he just ordered a vigorous defence without allowing himself to get a correct picture of the situation. One of the men among them says with a sullen voice, "You could not expect anything better from a corporal," another throws in. "And I don't understand Keitel, who must be informed about everything and still accepts Hitler's orders." He must be one of the first who realised that his Führer is crazy, and still after the 20th of July he announced in all openness his loyalty to him. Another indicates in an objective tone, "What would you do in his position, when everyone watches every step and spies follow you?" The major asks angrily, "We don't know enough about the situation, gentlemen, so we'd better just drop the subject." A clear voice ends the conversation. Deep in thought, I look for my friends, who sit smoking on the ground, watching for me. "Back from your early morning exercise," they greet me, laughing. "I come directly from a section of the division staff and report to you obediently that the Führer is crazy." I answer, and sit down among them. Obviously doubting my understanding, They look at me sharply and chuckle to themselves. Have a smoke, Helmut. Hocker tries to distract me by offering me a cigarette while he continues to study my face. I am not crazy, you sleepy heads. I only wanted to move around a bit and came upon a couple of high-ranking German prisoners whose conversation I indiscreetly heard. I remove from them all doubts about me. Is there really a general here? Briller asks, becoming curious. No general, but a general staff officer with the rank of colonel, I explain to him and report what I have heard. They always babble about such stupid things, and then they lick the soles of Hitler's boots when they receive the Knight's Cross in their hands. Briller pushes away the talk about officers. Hitler is crazy for them now that he can no longer use them, Hocker spits out contemptuously. Still filled with bitterness, I look toward the wood's edge, from which a group of Americans are coming toward us. When they reach the German staff officer, they stop. After a short exchange of words, the German general staff officer salutes and goes into the center of the assembly area. Listen up, all of you, he calls with a clear voice. The Americans have just informed me that in half an hour we will be transported from here. They ask, therefore, that as soon as the trucks arrive, we assemble in 5 rows, so that we can be loaded as quickly and easily as possible. We are going to a collection camp in which we will immediately be given something to eat. Nothing will be taken from anyone. By this occasion, I want to ask you personally to keep order and discipline, so that in our present situation we can impress the Americans. Under the more or less loud curses and maledictions of the prisoners, he turns and goes back to his place, where, his ego now built up by the Americans, he continues his conversation with the other officers. We want to make sure our cigarettes are secure, Briller indicates, taking his 3 packs of cigarettes out of his pants pocket. We follow, likewise taking all the cigarettes out of the packages and hiding them under the hem of our field blouses. In future searches, I will keep my wedding ring hidden under my tongue. Only my shaving kit, which I must carry in my open hands, remains in possible danger. 2 Americans armed with pistols mount the truck, which is completely loaded with Germans, and hold tight to the wooden stakes used for the canvas covers. Finally, the black drivers slam the doors to the cab shut. With a jeep occupied by 4 Americans in the lead, slowly the convoy gets underway and reaches the highway. At a speed of about 35 miles an hour, we roll westward through the area recently conquered by the Americans. After half an hour, we make a sharp turn to the south. We speed toward a village lying like a picture of pure peace, snuggled against the edge of the road. In the village are beds and food, restaurants with cool drinks and lusty girls. Everything that a soldier longs for, but which is now unattainable for us. Everything inside me strives to believe that this will be possible again. As the lead truck reaches the first houses in the village, it is greeted by the inhabitants standing along the street. But all too suddenly we see the raw reality in the form of rotten tomatoes, rocks and fists raised in threat. In a frenzied rage and with wild, distorted faces, the French show their true faces for the first time in this war, and what they really think about us. A hail of dirt and a cannonade of insults crack against us as we pass through this indignant mass of people. How is something like this possible? I grumble to myself as the whole affair is over, and we roll through the poorly cultivated fields. You stupid German rube, I admit to myself. You always imagined that they liked you because you were so nice and friendly toward them. Greatly disappointed, I look at my countrymen who, like me, can only shake their heads about the French. I feel that I have been forsaken by God and the world. My stomach cramps together, and every nerve is in rebellion. An undescribable feeling of homesickness fills my breast, which far exceeds all the bodily pain I have ever known. It is as though I have lost a loved one. But before I can control my feelings, we travel through a small city and experience the same thing. We are lucky that the Americans sitting alongside us point their pistols at the threatening Frenchmen. Otherwise, they would tear us from the trucks and trample us to death. An old ugly hag, with a swelling on her forehead as big as a tennis ball, pours her chamber pot out of a window upon the defenceless German prisoners in the vehicle stopped in front of us. A hail of stones, which our comrades had caught from the French, cracks into the window of the old woman, and she immediately clears out, disappearing into the interior of the house. Finally, the convoy continues on. Completely filthy, we escape from this awful town with its miserable people who act in raving madness to shower their hatred on defenseless prisoners. That's the way it is with the Grande Nation. I turn to Brilla. And we must handle them with kid gloves so that we don't hurt their pride, Hocker replies angrily. Just once in my life I would like to pass through this nest with my machine gun platoon, Brilla thunders, slamming his fist on top of the cab, causing the driver to hit the brakes and then give the truck gas so that the passengers tumble on top of one another like sacks of potatoes. Keep yourself under control, old man, otherwise you will have to get out and go by foot, I joke with my furious friend, who clamps a cigarette between his lips and waits impatiently for a light, while another prisoner pulls, with considerable difficulty, a match from his deep coat pocket. Gradually the ride becomes uncomfortable. Like animals for the slaughter, we remain squeezed together in a stupor. Finally the convoy nears Paris, and we begin to prepare for the stormy reception we expect there, when the lead truck takes the road to Saint-Denis, which we reach after half an hour of slow travel. Prepared for everything, we stare at the few passers-by on the streets who hardly notice us at all. The quiet with which the citizens take our arrival seems unreal to us. To my complete surprise, I discover behind the closed window of a house an older man and two girls who wave furtively to us with their handkerchiefs. Not until we exit the city do a couple of young punks and pious hookers, with their repulsive gestures, blur the good impression that Saint-Denis has made upon us. Already the sun is bowing in the west toward the sea, when, in the vicinity of Chartres, we leave the main road and follow a secondary road to a meadowland surrounded by barbed wire, in which about 1,000 German soldiers are enclosed. I notice a water ditch which meanders through the meadows and awakes in me an insane feeling of thirst. Others in the convoy see the water too, causing a dangerous commotion. But the Americans have mastered the situation and have a large number of soldiers armed with clubs to maintain order as the trucks are unloaded. And it is only with brute force that they succeed after a few minutes in lining us up in marching order. Again and again they swing their clubs down on the dried-out bodies of the prisoners, bringing the half-mad men to reason. I am pushed forward by the herd of prisoners, while Brilla's tight grip prevents me from falling to the ground. If we don't get something to eat here, then we will take off tonight, he cracks, full of doubt. Unable to utter another word, Hocker nods with sad eyes his agreement. Finally, the guards open the gate built of tree trunks. Once again, our pockets are searched before we are allowed inside the enclosure. Only the thought of escape gives us the strength to stand upright and patiently allow ourselves to be searched. By now, I no longer care what they take from me. My eyes see only the canvas bags in the enclosure where the first of our transport are gathered and drinking from the familiar spouts. Even before the searchers' dirty fingers are off me, I push my way forward and under one of the taps of the water container. Greedily, I suck the precious water out of the bag like a piglet at the nipples of its mother, and do not move away until Brilla squeezes in next to me. Although my thirst is not satisfied in the least, I look around for Hocker and find him lying on the ground, his strength completely gone. I drag him next to Brilla, who steps aside so that he can get some water. Only now I find the time and the interest to look around the area. The men from my transport lie in a wide circle like they have been mowed down, while a part of our predecessors mount the trucks in order to be transported on further. Still, I feel the urge for water, but it is no longer possible to get to the bags, which are now encircled by a massive ring of thirsty men. A considerable time later, Hocker reappears with a soaked field blouse and falls down in the grass beside us. They will make perfect pigs out of us if this continues, Brilla mumbles sarcastically to himself. Perhaps that is what they want in order to drive the belief in a master race out of us, I mock. They will only accomplish the opposite and will show us just how primitive they are, he answers in ridicule. For the time being, I don't give a damn about that if they just finally give us something to eat. They are at least responsible for that after they have taken away our freedom. Hocker jabbers with tear-wet eyes, which sees me with so much sympathy that I could commit murder to get him a piece of bread. Don't talk about eating, Willie, otherwise you will just get hungrier, Brilla continues in an irrational tone, It looks like the good air here is enough for you, and you are just happy to have saved your dirty hide. Hocker flies into a rage at Brilla. Put an end to trying to kill each other, then that will be the beginning of the end. I interject in order to prevent a useless conflict. Defiantly, each one turns his back to the other and stares at the ground. It has come this far. We begin to attack one another because of our hunger. This realization moves my heart to a previously unknown hatred for the Americans. We must undertake escape at any cost. The desperate decision to get out of this misery, or die trying, rips at me. Let's get some water to drink, friends. I try to bring about a conciliation. Without a word, they follow me to the water tank, where we lie under the spouts and fill ourselves. At least inwardly united, we return again to our old place and fall into the grass, where I keep a lookout for the Americans. What do you say about that? I nudge my two companions and point with my finger to a group of Americans who come into the enclosure with boxes on their backs and then stack them up. If there is no food for us, then I will eat grass the rest of my life, Hocker registers after a long pause. You don't have to do that, I answer happily. Then I notice that the Americans are tearing the bands from the boxes and taking the lids off. Already there is a steady movement toward the boxes. We too shuffle in the immediate proximity of the feeding place, watching, with eyes like shy deer made tame by hunger, how the Americans carry in and open more and more boxes. Finally, one of them asks me, "Speak English?" "A little," I answer him coldly. "Please put the men in 5 lines right now." He indicates to me, taking a small can out of the box which he throws into the air and catches like a ball. Fighting back my excitement, I mount a nearby stack of boxes and turn to my comrades. "Listen up," I call with a voice unknown even to me. "The Americans order that we line up in 5 rows so that they can distribute the provisions. Keep 3 steps distance from each row and hurry up so that we can finally get something between our teeth." If before I had imagined that I had learned somewhat how to handle soldiers, I am now bitterly disappointed. The men respond to my words like a scared herd of sheep chased by a fierce dog. Instead of lining up, they fight to get to the front, while the weaker ones are run over without any consideration. A German Odyssey. Get in 5 rows, then we will get our provisions in the shortest time. I try once again to bring some reason to the herd. "Shut your mouth, you pretender!" a private standing a considerable distance away bellows. "We don't need a sergeant anymore. Get down off your throne and see that you get in line yourself." Ashamed, I jump from the box and step toward Hocker and Brilla, who are raging red with anger. "Come over here," a red-haired American waves to us, taking 3 small cans out of the box which he gives to us. "It's okay, boys. We can wait until they get in the lines," he says to his comrades in a gloomy manner, whereupon we withdraw in anger about the lack of discipline shown by our fellow German prisoners. Such idiots. Hocker begins to cuss, staring at the small can in his hand. No one would have thought it possible how they fall apart, especially in front of the Americans. "That's the way it is with the famous German discipline," I say dejectedly, "but let them do what they want. I'm not going to worry about them. If they don't need a sergeant anymore, then we don't need any privates either." We watch the shameless action by the Americans as they beat the German prisoners mercilessly with their red-lacquered sticks after they try to use force to get to the boxes. It had to come to this, I say bitterly and sit back down. "They do not deserve any better," Brilla indicates, unmoved, staring at the can in his hand. "Damn it, I have such a hunger that I could eat a bloated cow. How am I supposed to get into this can of shit?" Brilla laments. I shuffle through my shaving kit for something to open the cans with, while Hocker walks along the ditch looking for a sharp-cornered stone. Brilla slams his can against the iron on his heel until a white broth gushes out of the hole. He quickly puts the can to his mouth and begins sucking out its contents. "What is inside?" I ask, shaking with greed and listening to the noises Brilla makes trying to eat from the can. "It tastes like carrots and meat," he answers. Filled with impatience, we beat the cans against our iron heels. Finally, what looks like a hole appears in mine, but I can't get any juice out even though I suck on it like a crazy man. "It smells like ham or eggs," I think out loud. Then the junk in my can is decayed, and I have swilled the broth. Brilla wails in despair, throwing the can into the grass. Hocker returns with several stones in his hands. Busy like woodpeckers, we work with the sharp rocks on the cursed cans, until a long crack opens in the side, which, with the help of my razor, I spread apart. Now I squeeze the index finger of my right hand through the crack, and with it I drill into the soft contents of the can. Twisting it slightly, I pull it back out of the can, and with a sudden motion pinch part of the pudding-like mass into my mouth. Not certain what it is that I am eating, I continue this process until it is clear that the can is empty, though hunger rages more strongly in my bowels. Terribly disappointed, I look to my two comrades who, still in doubt, search in their cans for any remaining bit of food. Angrily I throw the empty can into the ditch and stare at my index finger, which in contrast to the others is clean on the upper half. Not once did we wash our hands before we ate, although water was right under our noses. Hungry and full of disappointment and despair, we fall on our backs into the grass and stare at the nearly cloudless sky, where the first stars can already be recognized. Along the barbed wire, the guards light small campfires. "We should find a place for the night," Hocker says, gloomily breaking our silence. "Here along the ditch it is very damp." We get up without a word and look over the fenced-in meadowland. "It doesn't matter," Brilla indicates and begins to pull out the grass, preparing a place to lie down. "Don't bother with that, Brilla," Hocker interrupts him with a weak voice. "Down there where I found the stones there is dry reed grass and bulrushes that will give us a good mattress." Weak-kneed, we walk along the ditch to the place Hocker has discovered. Listlessly we collect the sparse grass and carry it to a dry place and pile it up. Exhausted, we lie down upon it. How long will it be until we will be able to sleep in a real bed? That is the thought that rattles in my tired brain. How good it would be if we could be changed into birds and could fly home. What are they doing and thinking at home right now? Do they sense that something has happened to me? I wrote my last letter in Le Bourget on August 17th. Their letters to me will be returned, and when they arrive the senders will be shocked terribly. We must risk escape in order to save our loved ones the awful distress. We could simply head eastward during the night across the fields and feed on fruit and other plants from the fields. Within a month we would reach the Rhine, or else a bullet would catch us and put an end to the whole misery. We don't know if the Americans will turn us over to a farmer, as is the usual practice in Germany. Then we would at least have food and a bed. Perhaps the German divisions will return and bring us freedom. Certainly Hitler will counter the advance of the Allies on the Marne and in the Ardennes with his own offensive. Then the French will spit on the Americans like they are now doing with us. I certainly would not want to be a Frenchman in that situation, because there are now too many bills to be paid after they have shown us their true face. Is it weakness or simply natural sleep that lulls us into such quietness and allows such thoughts to swirl through our minds? The 31st of August, 1944. It could be about 3 o'clock in the morning as I am awake. Still lying on my back, my eyes search the distant heavens as the grey of a new day begins to lift my spirits from point zero. My two friends lie next to me in a death-like slumber. Quietly I get up and attempt the first steps with my stiff limbs on this, the third day since we were captured. Like a piece of iron drawn by a magnet, my steps guide me to the barbed wire that encircles us. With both hands in my pockets, I stand staring at the awful barbs of wire. Only man, in his complete baseness, is capable of coming up with such a terrible means with which to spoil God's free earth. Do I see these rows of barbed wire for the first time today? Certainly not. During the long war years, I too have set up the huge rolls to protect our positions. Even in my childhood I saw the cow pastures encircled with it, in order to control the movement of the animals that were kept there. Why does this same wire look different in my eyes today? This time its barbs are directed toward my flesh and force me to finally respect it. "Why are you standing at the fence and not sleeping?" A strange voice from the other side unexpectedly tears me from my brooding thoughts. Gnome-like, a figure stands in the dark grey of the early fog on the other side of the wire and points a rifle at me. "Shoot me if I am bothering you." My sleepy blood boils over while my eyes search for a good rock to throw in the American's face. Your dangerous words indicate that you are very bitter, he continues calmly in a quiet tone. Why do you ask about a prisoner of war? Your comrades haven't shown such interest. I enter a dispute with him. You must not believe that all Americans are scoundrels who want to rob you. In a few days you will be in a real camp in which you will be registered, clothed, and shipped to the United States. Then you will think differently about us, he indicates, hanging his rifle on his shoulder. I am anxious to see if you speak the truth. Each time we are transported, we are promised provisions, but for days we have received nothing except for the little cans last night. I answer him in a skeptical tone. Go back a couple of steps from the wire and sit down. I will be right back. Here, smoke a cigarette so that I can find you again, he stammers, quickly throwing me a cigarette over the fence before heading toward the direction of the American tents. Although I wonder what his conduct means, I sit a few yards from the fence and wait without expecting much when he returns. Then it comes to me that the fellow speaks very good German. I wonder if he is a German-American or a trained spy. Observing the cold American cigarette in my fingers, after a few minutes I hear steps quickly approaching. With difficulty my eyes strain to penetrate the dark twilight and the thin fog. Like a shimmering figure, he appears at the fence and makes a soft sound which can only be for me. Cautiously I get up and respond with a subdued hello. Come here, German, he whispers enticingly over the fence, and I clearly observe a paper bundle that the man pulls out from under his coat. Do you want to coax me to the fence so that you can do away with me? I let slip unintentionally from my lips. Here, take this and be at this place tonight at midnight. My name is Eric and my parents are from Stuttgart, he bubbles, ignoring my terrible suspicions and extending the bundle toward me through the fence. Impulsively I spring to the fence, grab the bundle with outstretched hands and dash back to my place. Without waiting for any thanks, the man disappears as though into the earth. Only the movement of the disturbed wire still vibrates in the early morning dark. With beating pulse, I rip open one corner of the warm package and kneel in the grass, overwhelmed at the view. Spread out before me is a cooked chicken from which the steam rises, sending my senses into confusion. As quickly as I can, I rewrap this fantastic splendor and speed back to my comrades as though I were being chased. Hey, you sleepyheads! I shake them awake. Look at this! Still drowsy with sleep, they stare at the bundle, whose secret the paper covers. Suddenly Briller jumps up, seizes the package, and brutally tears the wrapping paper to shreds. Completely confused and unable to utter a word, he gapes in unbelief at the chicken, bread, cigarettes, and chocolate lying in the grass. Divide it into 3 parts, Willie. I turn to Hocker with a trembling voice. With fingers like the claws of a bird of prey, he seizes the chicken and tears it apart exactly in the middle. Before I can describe the process, he separates the drumsticks with a twist. Without losing a single word, he shoves the 2 drumsticks toward me, takes half of the rest in his hands, and sinks his teeth into the yellow skin. Shreds of skin hang from his mouth like a bedspread. Satisfied, Briller and I grab our portions, and then nothing but biting, chewing, and swallowing can be heard from 3 completely starved and half-crazy human beings. Minutes later, the pale bones, completely cleaned of every piece of meat, lie at our feet. Now divide the bread, Willie, Briller breaks out impatiently. With a few pulls, the bread is torn into 3 parts. It is just a small loaf of white bread, about 300 grams, and is gobbled up in a second. Have we really had something to eat, or is it a hallucination? Have our stomachs become barrels without bottoms? We will never be full, friends. Hocker forms my thoughts into words. Let's eat the chocolate now and then drink the canal dry, Briller suggests, seized by his desire for food. Listen to what I suggest, fellows. I attempt to persuade my companions. As you can imagine, these things were given to me by an American. The man is a German-American and understands our situation. He maintains that we will be sent by ship to America in a short time. Be that as it may, I don't want to starve to death either in the USA or here in France. Tonight at midnight I'm supposed to go back to the same place where he spoke to me. Certainly he will not come with empty hands. If we save the chocolate now and that which we will receive tonight, then we will have a small stock and can eventually slip through the wide strand of wire after midnight. I believe, after my conversation with this philanthropist, that here will be our last opportunity to escape, and later we don't want to regret that we have let it pass by. What do you think? I ask my friends and look at them intently. It is a good idea, Helmut, but have you found a hole where there are no guards? Brilla says thoughtfully. No, but when night falls, we will keep the guards in sight. Certainly they are convinced that we are all too weak and no one is thinking about escape. For that reason, they will not be very alert. Up to now, nobody has counted us, and they won't be aware of our escape once we have passed through the fence unobserved. I explain my thoughts completely. Agreed, everyone declares at almost the same time. Then let's get some water to drink, then go back to sleep so that tonight we can cover as much ground as possible. I encourage my friends as I stand to my feet and move in the direction of the water sacks. With a proud feeling in the breast that we have a worthy goal in sight, I return with Hocker and Brilla from the water tank back to our places. My companions close their eyes from the rising sun and fall into a deep sleep, while I restlessly ponder the best way to get back home. If we can slip through the wire at about 1 a.m., we can cover about 12 miles toward the east before it becomes day. That will take us nearly to Melun. Once we cross the Seine, the next big natural obstacle will be the Marne. In any case, it would be the devil's fault if we can't accomplish what many before us have done. The 1st of September, 1944. It depends on what the Americans give us to eat tonight. I consider it nonsense to take off into the unknown without anything, Brilla says to Hocker. What do you mean here in the unknown? Hocker prods him. Is there perhaps something here besides the constant hunger? He said that the American told him about our upcoming transfer, and I don't believe that they want to take us to America to let us starve to death. Brilla utters his sentiment. Apparently you have not yet been burned enough, my dear. Don't you remember the flyer we found by Saint-Sauveur, in which they urged us to desert, and they would give us the same provisions that they give the American soldiers? At that time, we did not believe it anyway, and were not at all interested. But today we know that it is all lies and falsehoods. Just take a look at yourself, at what they have made of you. It's too bad that I don't have a mirror so that you could see your face. Hocker ends his speech. Thank you for the explanation. Your face is enough so that I can imagine what I look like. But don't misunderstand me. I am in favor of escape. It's just that there must be certain conditions, Brilla explains. Then once again we are united, old fellow, I conclude. We will create the necessary conditions today. I suggest that we snoop around among the comrades and see if someone has a compass. Trust me, for chocolate or cigarettes you could buy a house in Germany. First, let's smoke one ourselves. I'll go get some matches. Perhaps it will be the occasion to find a man with a compass. Hocker jerks himself up and goes away. Don't you have your heart in the planned operation, Robert? I ask Brilla after Hocker has left the two of us alone. To be honest, Helmut, your plan is fantastic, but to cross the rivers and roads we can't live from apples alone, and on the isolated farmsteads there are dogs that will prevent our approach. It is for certain that my heart is in it, but my reason wants security. He answers me truthfully. I understand your inner struggle, Robert, but we really have nothing to lose and we can only win or fail. I pressure him. Listen, Helmut. He falls into his local dialect and lies on his back. You know that we have known each other for a long time and that we have fought many fights together. But don't take me wrong if I now tell you my opinion. You have changed during the last days. When I got acquainted with you, everything about you was based on reason. Only seldom did your feelings show through. At that time I secretly admired you because I was so careless, and that is why I stayed close to you. I know that you did not like me very much in the beginning, but later I noticed a certain sympathy growing in you, and I was very happy about it. Understand me correctly, I am still the same way today. But now, as far as you are concerned, everything is based on your feelings. You nearly broke down over the mean actions of the French. I assure you that did not bother me at all because I did not expect anything different from them. In Auxerre you were very angry because the madame tried to pass horse meat off on us as beefsteaks. That was a very small demonstration of feeling by you. but you washed it down with a cognac, and that impressed me very much. To come to the point, old friend, listen to what I say. Use your understanding once again. Throw your feelings overboard, otherwise I see only bad for you. One thing more, Helmut. I like you very much, and I will stand by you regardless of what fate has determined for us. I ponder Brilla's words without being in a position to contradict him. I know only too well that he is right. But is it possible to step outside one's own skin? I want to go home, or at least to a German unit where I can be a man instead of rotting behind this barbed wire fence. How easily these words are said, even when they are meant to be taken seriously. Naturally, they do not intend to let us starve, but a full belly is not the entire purpose of life, at least not for me. My grandfather had declared, "Man does not live to eat, but eats to live." Behind barbed wire there is no life, at the most that of a vegetable, but escape can bring life back to us. "Hey, you sun worshippers, take me with you," Hocker calls to us, following from a distance. "Man, you have to haggle with those guys like an old Jew," he laments after he catches up with us. "You can't believe how expensive every pants button has become." "Do you have a compass?" Brilla asks, abruptly stopping Hocker's surging speech. "No, but we can get a pocket watch. But the fellow wants 30 cigarettes for it, and it is an old clock that the Americans didn't even want," he observes further. "We can do business with him. If he is a smoker, then he will give us the watch for 20 cigarettes. In any case, we must get the watch as a substitute for a compass," I say in conclusion, and bend over toward the ditch. Half an hour later, we lie in the grass with clean-shaven faces and enjoy a cigarette in the warm sun. It may be 10 o'clock, and there is nothing going on in the camp. Only here and there a few German prisoners slip to the watering place. Bored, we doze along the fence in front of the American guards. Tonight we will flee from this unworthy life and, like animals in the free wilderness chased by humans, take up the fight for our existence. A joyful, prickling feeling surges through my entire being with these thoughts. Happily I wink at my two comrades, who are deep in thought. Suddenly Brilla jumps up and looks with complete interest toward the camp entrance. "What's going on, Robert?" I ask indifferently. "A whole bunch of Americans are coming into the pen," he answers, disturbed, and I raise up and look toward the gate. It is true, they are carrying tables and typewriters into the camp which they set up near the entrance. "Look out, they want to bind us with their papers." "Let them," Hocker pipes up cheerfully. "Tomorrow morning they can cross us off their list." A terrible, penetrating whistle shrills over the peaceful, sun-drenched meadow. "Everyone line up immediately in 5 rows. A small, black-haired American bellows in perfect German. "Now we are in for it," I mumble, surprised. If he is no German, then I will eat the broom and the cleaning lady. "Let's go, men, let's see what's up." Brilla springs to his feet. Distrustful, but full of curiosity, we shuffle at a snail's pace toward the small American who has positioned himself, like a grown-up drill sergeant with a puffed-up breast, about 20 yards in front of the other Yankees, looking with apparent disfavour at the slovenly group coming toward him. Fully conscious of his own importance, he points condescendingly to the ground a few steps in front of himself as we approach, and proclaims in an authentic Heidelberg dialect, "Begin here, gentlemen, and please hurry up." So, I think, after I observe the man carefully, here is one of the victims of Nazi Germany. Triumphantly, his black eyes beam at us, while his hand strokes the brand-new holster with the handle of an equally new pistol hanging out. Slowly, the 5 rows are formed. A few US soldiers, armed only with clubs, push their way deep into the camp and drive the laggards to the gathering place. Finally, it appears that all prisoners are assembled, since the Americans begin to organize the mixed-up herd into 50 groups. Very much accustomed to our mentality, the outlaw German Jew throws out a few encouraging words of humor into the crowd, which accomplishes more than all the club swinging by his American comrades. The Germans respond voluntarily to the call for proper distance and intervals. "The first group to the table furthest to the right, march," the wiry man commands, exactly like a German master sergeant sending his company out on a detail. Automatically we march just like we were on an army post to the table, on which 3 typewriters stand, behind which 3 American clerks slump in their chairs in the most awful manner. Glumly, they see in us only work to be done. Within our group, 3 American soldiers position themselves to keep order. The organization is good. We could envy them. After some minutes, I stand before a typewriter and wonder at the agile fingers of the typist who looked so tired a few moments ago. After I give my name, there follows my birth date, birthplace, weapon type, the number of my division, and the place where I was captured, all of which is typed on a form A4. Before I can retreat, another American hangs a postcard-sized label on my upper left pocket button with the printed letters, "Prisoner of War." "That is your new proof of identity," he indicates affably, and turns me over to one of the guards, who lets me back into the camp. I stop at the water bags, and in complete peace I drink in preparation for the coming dry days. Directly afterward, something registers in me which I had not noticed since our stay in the valley on August 26th. Acting against all unwritten rules for prisoners, I run as fast as my legs will carry me to the slope of the ditch and drop my pants. It is not much that my body gives out as excrement, but one must be thankful for the smallest indication that everything is still functioning. Then I cover the signs of the saving deed, like a cat, with earth. "Man, why did you take off like you were crazy across the meadow?" Hocker asks, worried, and standing on the rim of the bank. "If you can guess what I have hidden, then you will get exactly half of it." I grin unashamedly. "Thanks a lot, I understand." He laughs. "Were you really successful?" "Just a little bit, but hopefully in the future it will be regular," I answer, satisfied, and step toward Hocker as Brilla comes up behind him. Together we return to our usual place, where we study the prisoner of war cards. Prisoner of war surrendered at Soissons on August 29th, 1944. "Very good," I say. "We will need this receipt when we get to our troops. It proves clearly that we were captured. On the other hand, you should have had it dated before today, Helmut. Then without a pass, the Germans will certainly not take us in." Brilla pulls my leg and spits in a high arc upon a flower which pushes up out of the earth. It is high time to think about our winter camp. At home, the dahlias and the asters are in bloom. The wind blows over the wheat stubble. Fall and winter bring the worst time. We are going into the 5th year of this terrible war. Soon snow will lie on the graves of its countless victims. Let's look up the man with the watch. I turn to my comrades, who are busy removing the dirt from under their fingernails. "They are far from being finished with all their paperwork," Hocker answers, stretching his neck toward the gate. "Isn't it necessary for people to have 3 meals a day?" Brilla throws out the long-feared question. "It is at least noon," Hocker adds, "and they do not make any indication that they are going to distribute any food. Let's divide a package of chocolate, Willie. It would be wrong to rob our stomachs of the last piece of internal fat." Like a mean villain grinning at the tricks pulled on his companion, Brilla takes in my words, wrinkles his face, and takes out of a side pocket of his field blouse the familiar American chocolate and throws it into Hocker's lap, still smirking at him. "Don't push the whole piece down your throat at once," Hocker teases him while handing him his share. "I hope a piece sticks in your throat so that in the future you will keep your mouth shut," Brilla counters, letting a chunk of chocolate disappear behind his teeth. "Shouldn't we go tank up on water?" Hocker asks. "The stuff is easier to swallow with a drink." "Do you want to bring this whole mob into an uproar?" I hiss at him. "What will they think when they see us munching on chocolate?" "What they think is of no concern to me since yesterday, but you are right. We can't make life more difficult for the poor devils," Brilla mixes in. After we get rid of the traces of our secret meal, we make our way to the water bags with thirsty throats, just as the bags are being filled by a water wagon. At least they provide water for us. I express my thanks. We can't complain about the treatment either. Even the Jew was not mean, but conducted himself correctly. With great care, some Americans look after the water bags around which the spilled water has formed puddles. A grey-haired American takes a shovel from the truck and begins to dig a drainage ditch for the water. It does not occur to him to give the assignment to one of the many Germans standing around, which would have been expected. How different the Americans are. In general, their army is composed of older soldiers than the Germans. Is that why their treatment seems better? Their breakthrough at the Cherbourg bridgehead and the accompanying push toward Paris was anything but stormy, in contrast to our quick advances, which resulted in lightning-like encirclements. But they have at their disposal an almost unlimited supply of weapons and material, while after 4 years of war, we are at the point of burning out. The gate to the camp is opened by 2 guards. A truck rolls into the cage and stops in front of the gathering place. With great carelessness, a very tall American twists himself out of the doorless cab and stands in front of the truck with both hands in his back pockets in a very unsoldier-like manner. The Yankees who arrive with him begin to unload boxes of provisions from the truck, the sight of which causes our hearts to beat faster. This time everything suggests that the distribution of the provisions will be orderly. Without being asked, German soldiers, resigned to their fate, form up in rows. A few do try to dance out of turn and get to the front of the rows, but the majority have come to grips with the situation and work to educate the resistors. After an hour of standing, the 3 of us sit on our mats made from reeds and hammer with stones at the cans we have received. Today there are 2 cans for each man, and they are about 2 inches longer than our well-known iron rations. From the outside, both cans look the same. There is only a difference in the weight. It is clear that we try to open the heaviest first, and after yesterday's practice we are successful. The label on my can reads meat and beans. Without speaking, we scratch for the beans and meat with our index finger through the crack we have made in the cans, all the time our hunger driving us to a frenzy. Dear God, if we could only once more eat to our satisfaction, Hocker curses, then throws the empty cans into the ditch where they sink without a sound into the water. Forcing myself to rest, I sit next to my friends, staring into space and accusing God and the world. The cans shine in my hands like they are polished, while inside my body a crazed dragon appears to be demanding food. When I received the cans, I had the thought to save one of them for the escape, but now I can no longer resist the inner urge and reach for the second can. Again working with the tools of the first humans, we attack the latest example of the progress that the white race has made in the field of food storage, the tin can. Driven by the fully operating instinct for self-preservation, we pound without pause on the tin shells until they bend to human will and let their contents go free. For the price of our sweat, we receive 4 cookies, 3 candies, and 3 cigarettes. The damn Americans have nothing but dumb stuff in their shit cans, Brilla bellows, foaming at the mouth. They must take us for fools, Hocker joins in. We must disappear. We've got to get out of here. Otherwise, they are just making a circus out of us. I continue further. Let's go get some water to drink and look for the man with the watch, Brilla commands, as though he wants to say goodbye to the Americans on the spot. We stop at the water bags, to which are now tied several empty cans as water cups. A comrade who seems to be shaking in his boots offers us 3 cigarettes for 3 cookies. We ate them all a long time ago, Brilla says, undisturbed to his face. The cookies are only crumbs by the time you pound the cans open. I join in the conversation with this frail little chap. We made knives from the steel bands with which the food cartons were wrapped, he tells me with lightly suppressed contempt. Do you have anything against me? I ask him, somewhat amazed. Not particularly, but all of those of your rank are guilty of the shitty situation we find ourselves in, he accuses me through his small lips. Man, you don't look that dumb to make a sergeant responsible for the entire course of the war. Who put the bug in your ear? I ask him, becoming curious. Most of the men here cuss you 3 because you keep to yourselves instead of asserting our right to provisions with the Americans, he answers. So that's it, I say slowly. And what was your opinion last night when, at the request of the Americans, I asked you to line up? We don't need a sergeant anymore, is what you screamed. That's why you ended up getting beaten into line by the Americans, until you were finally eating out of their hands. Tell that to your dear comrades. By the way, in accordance with the Geneva Convention, which is now in effect for us, you can at any time elect a spokesman to represent your point of view to the Americans. Still, I feel sorry for the poor victims of war, even though I am one of them. But from now on, away with such useless feelings. I suppress my rising sympathy and turn my thoughts to escape. I catch, "Do you think you can find him again, Willie?" I ask Hocker after Brilla and up with him. "He is sitting over there with his buddies," he indicates with his chin toward a group of men lounging on the ground. "Hey, Fatso!" Hocker calls to the man and waves him to come to us when he looks up. "Do you still have your clock?" he asks affably while we drop to the ground. "Yes," he answers. "Let me see it." I inject myself into the conversation. With dirty fingers, he takes the watch out of the upper pocket of his field blouse and lies it in my hand. It is a very ordinary nickel-plated watch which could be purchased in France for 3 marks. "How much?" I ask the man. 40 cigarettes, he answers without blushing. "This morning you asked 30 cigarettes." Hocker laughs at him. "Then the Americans had not given out any cigarettes," the man answers indifferently. "In the next camp, a less modest American could find favor with the primitive thing, and then you would lose it." I make an attempt to lower the price. "Yes, and your cigarettes too." He turns the tables on me. "You have a good business sense. How about 30? I ask. "Nothing doing? 40 and not one less." He remains firm. "Then keep it. What time it is doesn't matter anymore." I pretend to be uninterested and get up. "Good. Give me the 30 cigarettes and it is yours." He finally comes around. Exactly at 4 p.m. we lie down at our camping place. From now on, 2 can sleep and 1 stays awake. Who wants the first watch? I ask, without waiting for an agreement from both of them. "Me," Hocker volunteers. "Good, Willie. At 6 p.m. wake me. From 8 p.m. on we must keep a careful watch on the east fence, including the guards. I will meet my friend at midnight at the old place. I am anxious to see what kind of provisions he has packed for our trip," I say, snuggling into the mat of reeds. Just as I start to doze off, I hear a loud engine noise. "Is something going on out there, Willie?" Brilla asks sleepily without stirring. "There certainly is," I hear Hocker say quietly. "A truck convoy is rolling. I believe we will have company." "I feel sorry for them." Brilla yawns and turns onto his other side. A few minutes later, a whistle tears us to our feet. Like an ant pile that has been stirred up, the brown forms of the Americans pour en masse into the camp. Stiffened like pillars of salt, the German prisoners stand in their places and peer at the gate. "Everyone line up in 5 rows in front of the camp exit," the black-haired sergeant bellows into the pen. We are loaded into trucks with American guards. They distribute cigarettes and chocolate to those standing next to them. Although we are standing in the back part of the truck, the 3 of us also receive our share. Generously, the good man also makes his lighter available. Sometimes prisoners can be very thankful for the smallest sign of sympathy. But still, the good-intentioned American must energetically and repeatedly ask for his lighter back, which some scoundrel among us tries to keep for himself. Finally, under pressure of the entire group, the rogue returns the lighter to the good American, after he has continually denied that he has it. Slowly we roll into Alençon. I was here in the city before, and my thoughts wander back to the past. How much has happened and what changes have taken place in the meantime, and it is only 3 months ago since I was wounded and spent the night here. Silently and without sympathy, the inhabitants of the terribly destroyed city stand on the road. Neither in a positive nor a negative sense do these people allow themselves to show their true feelings toward us. Who can they accuse? The defenders of the city, the Germans, are not the cause of the destruction. Only the attackers, that is the liberators, have turned everything into soot and ashes with their bomb carpets. We now pass a church, made unusually beautifully golden by the sinking sun. It stands like a flare spouting heavenward in the midst of a crater landscape, as one of the last witnesses of this city to the downfall of all of Europe. Laboriously, the column works its way through the rubble-covered and bomb-cratered streets. After we pass the last houses of a suburb, suddenly and unexpectedly we turn from the main street. Shortly afterward, we reach our destination. An enormous fenced enclosure lies before us, in which at least a division of German soldiers are crammed together. Vehicle after vehicle rolls through the gate and pours out its shocked cargo. It is a massive undertaking for the guard personnel to direct the new arrivals to the various components of the gigantic camp. Officers, non-commissioned officers, and soldiers are separated. Before the three of us comprehend what is going on, we find ourselves in a cage near the middle of the immense camp in what appears to be a section only for non-commissioned officers. "A hearty welcome to you, comrades," an impressive man's voice sounds from behind my back. "Staff Sergeant Schultz is my name, presently a prisoner of war in Alençon, France." He introduces himself. We tell him our names and grin like Cheshire cats at the friendly man who has a pencil and a scrap of paper from a cement sack. "I am the man for everything around here, and I don't want to miss adding you to my list, since it is possible that our captors will eventually give us provisions either today or tomorrow, based on the number on my list. By the way, you are in Compound 12, in case you missed it with your quick arrival. I am sorry I can't offer you a roof or a bed, but the sky has been considerate toward us and offers a wide star canvas over us. In this hotel there are no blankets or anything like that. Therefore, based on my own personal experience, if you start to freeze, I suggest that you lie on your stomachs and cover yourselves with your arse." "Do you always speak so much nonsense? Are you really that proud of your pig pen?" Brilla smiles, already pleased with this fellow. "It pleases me that you at least deal with the situation with some humour. We have enough failures here who long ago lost their nerve." He follows up with Brilla's joke and extends his hand. "When did they bring you to this side of the front?" he asks, keeping a sharp eye on us. We give a short account of our story as a new circle of curious forms around us. "The Americans are already in Soissons," is their only reaction, and they slowly separate from us. Finally, I have the time to look around my new surroundings. There is not much to see except for captured German soldiers, barbed wire, and a completely trampled meadow. Yet something does catch my attention that nearly stops my heart from shock. There is a tree in the compound whose roots have been uncovered by the hands of many men, and the thin ends ripped off. The trunk is robbed of its bark. Only a few strands flutter brown and dead in the light evening breeze. "Does the tree tell you anything, my friend?" Schultz interrupts my stare as he follows my gaze. "How long has this camp existed?" I ask tensely instead of answering his question. "I don't know, but this tree lost its bark and roots in the last few days." "Just like before, there is nothing here to eat," Hocker mumbles disappointedly to himself. "Where can you get a drink of water?" Brilla asks, looking around the compound. "We only get water once a day, but that is supposed to get better. At least that's what the Americans have promised." Staff Sergeant Schultz answers him, but even he looks like he does not believe it. "It is slowly getting dark, men," he indicates, concerned. "If you want, you can sit next to me. I have a piece of cardboard at my place." Slowly we follow him into the right corner of the enclosure, where he sits down next to a stick with his hat upon it shoved into the ground. His rolled-up coat and an open piece of cardboard lie on the ground. "Don't be bashful and take a seat, otherwise your legs will soon stick up into your empty gut," he encourages us, wiping with his hand the free spot on the cardboard as though he fears we might get our pants dirty. "Aren't you afraid that someone will take your coat?" I ask him after we have sat down. "Where will the thief go with it?" He laughs with a question. "He could go to the fence and sell it to someone else," Hocker answers in my place. "It's easy to see that you haven't been prisoners very long," he laughs. "Otherwise you would know that behind barbed wire one does not go unobserved for a moment. Here you cannot even scratch your behind without at least 20 pairs of eyes seeing it." "Can you at least smoke a cigarette without being hit?" Brilla asks cautiously. "Yes, you can. Then some have them, and besides this morning we received 2 small boxes which contained 3 cigarettes. He responds to Brilla's question, who then takes a cigarette out of his boot. "Thank you. I don't smoke anymore." Schultz turns down the cigarette Brilla offers him. "What do you mean anymore, comrade? Have you given it up?" I wonder. "Yes," he indicates matter-of-factly. "If you can't get them, then the cigarettes really become coffin nails. In the beginning it is naturally hard to do without them, but I gave away the rest that the searchers left me, and now it is easy for me to go without them." There is a lot of self-control in this man, I think to myself, as I draw a deep breath of smoke which somehow makes me full but also weak. Tired, I let myself fall backward into the trampled grass and stare upwards into the stars. Alençon, a city in France on whose periphery today, September 1st, 1944, at least 15,000 German soldiers are camping under the open sky under the control of American machine guns. Fate? Who can believe it? Where is the German military genius of which the history books never tire of reporting? Or with the invasion, did they simply write us off in order to deceive the enemy and start an offensive from deep within our territory that will strike a blow of destruction? Questions, nothing but questions, which force themselves up during the long night and which neither I nor anyone else can answer. The 2nd of September, 1944. The warm rays of the mild September sun push aside the night and begin to change the dew into steam. A thick bumblebee circles around Hocker's nose, then lands on the small bridge of his nose, tearing him from dreamland. Man, I thought I was in the airplane that took me out of the encirclement at Stalingrad, and I could once again feel the wound in my back. Instead, the hum of this damn beast around my skull and a club of grass caused my back pains. He greets me with a sour laugh, disappointed with reality. Nearly all the prisoners stand at the exits to their compounds, their hands in their pants pockets, gaping expectantly toward the main gate, where a command sergeant major, whose face is covered with a Genghis Khan-looking beard, stands with other non-commissioned officers. That fellow was appointed camp spokesman by the Americans and is the biggest swine that I have ever laid eyes on. Schultz continues his explanation. He is from the eastern region, but